Hello YouTube, Bane666 here. Yeah, I'm doing a part 3. So let's just get into it.
Those who don't want to start with, a female philosopher, as we mentioned in the documentary, it does feature Michael Kimmel.
Yes.
Yeah, so Michael is, as we said, he's an amazing academic, and he's capable of, doing a proper critique on both, men and women. So it's not like he's picking sides, although allegedly in the film it's like as if he is picking sides, but I know for sure, because you and I have read his work.
Yeah, we've read his work. And
Hold on a second. You said that in the movie it appears like he's picking sides, and you know for sure that he doesn't. Even though you haven't seen the movie or heard what he says. Do you think maybe you should watch the movie and then make up your mind about what he actually says in the movie? Because I can tell you, a lot of it is fucking bullshit, as I've already pointed out in the previous 2 videos. But anyway, continue.
he's very, very balanced.
Yeah. You can look it up in the TEDx talks. He comes up quite a bit on YouTube.
Yeah, there's a good way to waste. Not waste, but use some.
He's a really funny guy. He's got a lot of progressive ideas. I mean, for the blokes out there who are listening to us who want someone to start with Michael Kimmel. I'd recommend.
Yeah.
I find the claim that Kimmel is fair and reasonable to be laughable. He's been anything but that. I mean, who could forget that classic Cracked article, which was a MRA hit piece called 5 Uncomfortable Truths Behind the Men's Rights Movement, where the author interviewed Michael Kimmel and a former white supremacist to get their opinions on the men's rights movement. Instead of actually asking people who are involved with the MRM, what you do is you find a former white supremacist who has no connection to the men's rights movement, and a feminist university professor who is biased as all fuck and can't even get his facts right. Like this one, for example, where he claims that the Southern Poverty Law Centre labelled MRAs as a hate group. And as we all know, that's bullshit. The SPLC has come out numerous times and stated that they never did such a thing. Yet people like Kimmel goes around repeating this lie constantly. So Michael Kimmel is hardly fair and reasonable. I mean, he did write a book called Angry White Men, and the 2 girls from Doofland tell us that he is fair and reasonable. So I'm guessing the book Angry White Women is just on the way. He hasn't finished it yet, but I'm sure he's written a book telling us all the faults of white women. Or maybe he's so fair and reasonable it's a book about angry black women. I don't know. Probably not though. He's probably not doing that. I'm sure he's just lumping all the ills of the world on white men and labelling them as angry, because that's the type of bigot that he is.
And after you're done with Michael Kimmel, and because you were talking about history, Kat, so I was thinking maybe just to start some people off, some old school feminism would be from one of my favorites, Simone de Beauvoir. Again, yes. I am so sorry for butchering the French language. I suck at French, which is weird, but for reasons I cannot explain. So Simone de Beauvoir actually has a lot of progressive ideas, and she's one of my favorite writers, and she's one of the first writers when I was reading anything to do with feminism. She was the first that came up. And the more that I read, the more that it just dawned on me just how entrenched all these ideas about what a woman is supposed to be, what a man is supposed to be, and how deeply entrenched they were, even to the core of oneself. So much so that it made me start thinking about the way that I would act around men. So I've got 3 older brothers, and so I always thought I was one of the guys. And this is, I think, going to tie in rather well.
Yes.
Talking about
anti-feminism.
Yeah,
yes.
and Cassie J's journey into. So she immersed herself into the MRA movement, and at the end, she ended up hating feminists.
So we do have a confession to make.
Yeah, once upon a time, I used to say those sad little words. I'm not like other girls, though. I'm not like other girls. I'm one of the guys. And I used to wear it like a fucking badge of honor.
No,
Am I understanding this correctly? I'm a little bit stunned at the moment at the level of stupidity, so you're going to have to forgive me as I just take a moment to try to understand this. Are they actually suggesting that Cassie J gave up being a feminist because she hung around some men's rights activists and interviewed them and decided that she just wanted to be one of the guys? Have I misunderstood this? Is that what they're actually suggesting? I'm a little bit stunned at the stupidity. Maybe I've misunderstood. Maybe this is going in a completely different direction. We'll find out in a minute. And I'm happy to stand corrected if I'm wrong. But it sounds like that's what they're suggesting. That she somehow just identified as one of the guys and therefore decided to give up her feminism. Wow. Of course, if they actually watched the movie, they would see that she went through a crisis, she questioned her beliefs, she examined the facts, and she realised that she had been fed a lot of bullshit by the feminist movement. But, you know, you actually have to watch the movie to understand that. It's like a major part of it. I guess that takes a little bit more effort, though, than just assuming a whole heap of things and making things up. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've misunderstood this. Maybe they're going in another direction. Let's go and find out.
I've got a worse one. When I used to sometimes say, you know, when I was with the blokes, you know, they'd be like, I don't understand why women are so difficult, which I would follow up with, yeah, women are bitches. And they'd be like, yeah, fuck yeah.
Oh my god, the bro code. And we were so sucked into it. Now, you know, I come from a rather traditional conservative family, so
I never would have guessed with that privileged upper class accent that you have there. I'm just shocked. I am absolutely shocked.
Very much so the Bar Black Sheep. But a very much loved Bar Black Sheep, may I just add. Because I am unique and special in my own way, apparently, and they've all just decided to find it charming for some reason. So there's that. So this is where I'm coming from. But I used to be all like, fucking makeup, diets, fuck that shit. I'm gonna be like, guy, I drink beer. I can drink you under the table, sir.
Yeah. And the other one was, you know, you and I used to do it, like, when one of the girls we didn't like had her hair all done perfectly and her makeup all caked on. We used to her, look at her hair, look at her makeup, you know, fucking slut.
Exactly.
You know?
Oh my god, the amount of slut shaming that I used to do when I was a teenager. Oh my god, like, you know what? I'm going to say it right now. 13 to 15-year-old Bunny was an asshole.
So can we start labelling that as toxic femininity? Maybe we can get Michael Kimmel to write a book on it. What do you think, girls? Sound like a good idea?
Yes.
You know,
and Menace Cat was a jealous fuck.
Yeah.
I still, to some degree, I admit, I get jealous of all you, you know, fine-looking ladies out there.
So you are a fine-looking lady. Cat's lying. She's a fine-looking lady. She's gorgeous. Like, she's...
Stop it. Stop it, darling.
She's a little bit Eva Longorio, just a touch, but like, you know, chubby and cute.
At least you chose Eva Longoria. If you said Sofia Vergara, I was going to kill you.
No, I love Sofia Vergara, but you do not look like her.
Oh,
that's the other thing. Can I just say, also, it is Cinco de Mayo today, and I'm probably like, you know, outing my you know, my heritage a little bit.
Oh, that's why Guzman Gomez had their thingo.
Yeah,
their $5
that's why I'm
deals.
getting fat on like burrito right now.
Yeah. By the time we're talking about this, is probably too late for anyone listening. But, yeah.
But anyway, I would just add, we don't all look the fucking same. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, but that's for another day, actually.
Yes. All right. We're
back into this. So,
yes.
Now on the walk over here before we started recording, I think I made the point to Kat that, you know, of course she immersed herself. Of course she became friends with these guys and like got sucked into their, you know, their way of thinking, because human beings are aggressively social creatures. It's not usury or anything in any way, shape or form for us to just be like, I need to survive, so I'm going to just like grab onto you and we're going to survive together. And
Oh, okay. So instead of Cassie J looking at new evidence and changing her mind, right, which is what critical thinking is, remember these two claim to be critical thinkers. I know. Crazy, right? But instead of doing that, according to them, Cassie J hung around some males, some men's rights activists, and apparently her weak lady brain was influenced by them because she couldn't hold onto her former opinions. They effectively brainwashed her somehow with their masculine telepathy or something. I'm not exactly sure how. Maybe they kidnapped her and brainwashed her. I'm not sure. I'm sure it has something to do with the patriarchy and rape culture and probably a bit of toxic masculinity. But one thing we can be sure of, and that is Cassie J didn't examine new evidence and change her mind using critical thinking, because that would be giving a woman agency, and feminism doesn't like doing that, apparently. Of course, you could just watch the movie and see that's exactly what happened. She re-examined things and changed her mind. And I give her full credit for that too. It was a brave move. Next.
so I think one of the things about being one of those girls that was like, I'm just like all the other boys, was because in a way, like, you are kind of, you grow up to be, you know, afraid of guys, really, and you kind of feel a bit of protection around men. And if you make yourself into a man, then nobody's gonna fuck with you. So, you know, you're trying to... So I think that's where I was coming from.
Yeah, it's a bit complicated for our upbringing because I suppose, you know, I mean, even till now, like, we're considered tomboys, which of course
It's just another way of expressing femininity, so I don't really
I don't get that one. It is problematic. Yes, I said the word. I know.
It's very problematic.
The P word.
No, I use that word all the time. I use that word like 3 times today.
Because
in an hour.
Yeah.
In the space of an hour, I used it 3 times. So
I think this is the disentanglement we had. We couldn't fit in to the ideal feminine look
Yeah.
at school. We
Because,
weren't.
yeah,
As
As I said before, I am a big chick. Like, I'm built like a brick shit house. I didn't even grow boobs for like ages. So, and I had no. Like, so for me, like, I couldn't fit into any norms of femininity. So
Yeah.
I immediately went, I'm definitely meant to be like one of the guys then. Yeah.
For me, it was just a lack of access to things that some of the girls were able to. I mean, that being said, I know some girls I think they were just naturally lucky. They probably had some sort of charming personality, and they didn't.
Can we get back to the talk about the red pill, please? They have to go back to that at some point, don't they? I hope.
Have to do anything, but I know that for some of the girls it had to do with what you could buy, what you could learn, who was your mentor, and I was just, again, because I also, come from a very strict conservative family, so I was just like in this little bubble, and I just did not understand all the social rules when it came to interacting with other girls, and so that and also so it was almost kind of like, I just couldn't climb the social ladder fast.
Okay, I just cut a huge bit out, the next bit, because they're just rambling on about boys clubs and things like that. I think they're still going to ramble on about that for a little while, but I've jumped ahead to a bit which hopefully is a little bit more interesting at least, and hopefully we get back to the red pill discussion soon. I'm starting to run out of bleach, so I hope they do get back to that topic soon.
Have a way of bringing them out. So unless you go through them, you might perpetually think that you're always in the boys club, but that's just not the case for everybody.
The boys club is a boys club for a reason. It's because, they've got the big no girls sign out the front. And even as much as you try to adhere to their standards of masculinity, like, I do martial arts. I'm not even wearing makeup today. Even now I struggle with things like that, or wearing a fucking dress, because for the longest time, for me, because I grew up with boys, I thought that's how that's how I will survive. And the way they used to talk about women would kind of brainwash me into thinking that's what a typical woman is.
Well, I guess we're very lucky then that groups of women never talk about men in negative ways. Hold on. Now, just one more thing before we go on. I'd just like to say that bleach is very expensive. The amount of bleach I go through making a video like this, it costs a lot. So if you appreciate the effort that I put into putting up with this, and you want to support Bane's bleach habit, by all means, please go and visit my Patreon and support me there. I'll really appreciate it, because bleach is not cheap, and I need more bleach. I need more bleach to get through this. Please.
And their ideas of what a typical woman was like so fucking wrong. I mean,
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Fucking women wearing makeup to trick us. Oh, that's just like false advertising. It's like, I'm sorry, a woman is not a product.
Yeah, the ironic thing is that, and it still happens, like, it's usually, the girl that has that, if a woman isn't all dressed up, they don't pay attention, Yeah. So you're sort of paying out, it's like you're paying out the very thing that you go after. It's like, oh, well, will you go for a woman that's not with makeup? Maybe she's a bit overweight, Like, usually the reaction I've gotten is, oh, I don't go for this kind of chick, or, she looks like she's lazy and doesn't, like, she doesn't even try to present herself.
But the minute they wear makeup, fucking slut, I mean...
You can't win. It's like you can't win, basically.
Exactly. So the boys club, you can never be part of the boys club, because they're all going to be secretly judging you. Like, no shade to my brothers at all, like... they're just as much of a, victim of circumstance and, products of their environment as I am and as everybody in the world is. But, like, you have to try to learn and grow out of these certain ideas and, think for yourself eventually.
You mean like Cassie J did when she was presented with new evidence and she changed her mind? Is that what you mean? Oh, no, of course not, because she's a woman and she doesn't have any agency. Of course not. She was brainwashed by the MRAs. Yep. Obviously.
And I think, like, you know, so maybe Jay is just trying to be part of the boys' club, and it's not really going to get her very far, because she's starting to, like, take on all these really misogynistic ideas onto herself.
Like what? What misogynistic ideas is she taking on to herself? That men can be victims? That men's issues are ignored? Is that the misogynistic ideas that you're talking about? Unbelievable. Just, it's astounding. These two are fucking astounding. Their level of ignorance is just, it's off the chart. It really is. What a shame they just didn't take a couple of hours to watch the movie and, you know, actually think about it before sitting down and making this. I'm stunned again. Just let's go on.
And it's not really helpful to anybody, and it does actually kind of, more than anything in my mind, you know, promote maybe a sense of you know, self-hatred for women, and it's just making men look like, you know what, yeah, they're right about this shit, but they're not.
It's just, and the people that she's being interviewed with, you know, is very questionable as well.
Good. This is the bit I was hoping to get up to. I was hoping they would eventually get around to talking about the people that she interviews. Now, keep in mind, they haven't actually seen the interviews, but they're going to tell us why it's wrong anyway. And I assume they know nothing about the people being interviewed. I wonder if they'll mention Erin Pitsey, who's the woman, the men's rights activist who opened the first domestic abuse shelters in the world. I wonder if they'll mention her and say anything about her. Probably not. I'm guessing it's just going to be a whole heap of shit about Paul Elam. That's what I'm guessing. Anyone willing to make a bet that I'm right? Come on. I need to buy more bleach. So
You know, like, you know, I think in one of the YouTube videos she interviewed, or she was interviewed by this American pastor who has actually openly said that women should not be able to vote, for example. You know,
Yeah.
She's actually got a bit of a creepy demeanor if you look at the any videos with her. I mean, I know you can't judge a book by its cover, but just saying that you know. I think you and I have we've got a bit of an intuition when we sense that something's not right about a person.
what? Are they talking about Cassie J? Cassie J's creepy. Really? I think all the bleach has affected my hearing. I mustn't have heard that correctly. They're actually talking about Cassie J. And she's interviewed by a pastor who thinks that women shouldn't have the vote. Well, that's definitely not part of the Red Pill movie. They did say something about YouTube, though. So I have no idea what they're talking about at this point. I've drank way too much bleach, and I'm just going to go with the flow here and see what happens.
Yeah. See, the thing is as well, like, one of the criticisms of the film is that she didn't even try to delve into maybe what would be called the dark side of the men's rights movement. Because, like, you know, as feminists, we look at a lot of feminist writings, and there's certainly times that we're going to be like, what is this bitch on about? Seriously. Because, like, you know, white feminism is a thing. You know, trans exclusionary feminism is a thing. And these are the ideas that we constantly debate and be like, well, you can't just, you know, they don't align with our views of feminism. So there are many forms of feminism, as I'm sure there are many forms of men's rights movement.
You know, also the you know, the example I was, you know, mentioned before about when you talk about religious groups, you don't bunch a whole people into the one group. There's different, you know, denominations, because there are, you know, differing beliefs, and it's the same with feminism. I mean, you know, there is, you know, it's not like a rule book, and it's not a you know, and we're also branched out. We're not all, we do disagree with other women. I think that's very important to know. This is not about just agreeing with every other woman. It kind of defeats the purpose. The whole point is to challenge ideas.
The whole point is to challenge ideas. Maybe watching the movie would have been a good start to that.
You know, I think at the very core, you know, we approach, you know, feminism, you know, from a philosophical point of view. You know, it's about, you know, creating, you know, different perspectives. You know, trying to, you know, what's the word? I suppose, you know, hope that, you know, whoever's listening, give them an epiphany and be like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. You know, that's the beauty of philosophy, you know, in itself.
And maybe,
you know,
one of the things that the film is failing to do is kind of do that for the, you know, men's rights movement. Like, where is the critical, you know, thinking that goes involved into this film? I mean, there's been a lot of criticism saying that that Jay doesn't at all, you know, explore any anything to do with, like, systemic causes of men's issues.
That's right. Yeah,
you know,
well, that's what I've heard.
It's like, I've heard that about it, and I've.
Oh, you've heard that about it because you didn't actually bother to watch the movie and find out before criticising it. Oh, God, I need more bleach. But seriously for a moment. What Cassie J does is she interviews men's rights activists. She gets their opinions in their own words. She looks at statistics. She has a counter opinion with the feminists in their own words. The issues are discussed in great length. Some more than others, but I mean, there's only so much you can fit in a 2-hour movie. And on top of all that, we have Cassie J's journey, which is a key element to the movie, where we see her look at both sides of the argument and change her mind. And it's difficult for her to do it. She's in tears during some parts of the movie. That must have something to do with the brainwashing and the MRA telepathy or something. I don't know. But I guess you would have to watch the movie to know all that, right?
Also heard that, you know, she's just basically makes them look like, you know, they're like, you know, it's basically tilted in favour of them.
Oh, you've heard that's what she does. You didn't bother actually watching it and seeing if what you've heard is correct. You just assumed what you heard was correct without even considering that the people telling you this might have an agenda and might be fucking lying. Now the question is, where did you hear this? The answer is from the biased feminist media who takes a shit on anything to do with men's rights any time they can. Which is why it's laughable that earlier in your hour and 10-minute long rant that you said that feminists aren't the enemy of MRAs. are bullshit. Absolute fucking bullshit. When they write hit piece after hit piece and spread misinformation and lies, and then ignorant people like you come along and believe it without actually using critical thinking skills, yeah, that's enough for us to consider those people enemies. Now, should we consider you enemies? I don't know. It's a difficult one. Maybe you're reachable. I don't know, though. It really depends on how entrenched you are in these ideas. I guess it's possible if you're given an alternative view, you might change your mind. You know, like Cassie J did in the movie, the one you haven't watched. But then again, I'm guessing you're just going to dismiss anything which doesn't fit into your narrow worldview, and then at exactly the same time, call yourselves critical thinkers who look at the evidence and make up your mind, while claiming that those who disagree with you are the exact opposite of that. It really is astoundingly frustrating listening to this. I think I've drank so much bleach now that I've developed a tolerance to it. I don't know what to do anymore. It's not having the same effect. It's not numbing my brain as much as it needs to. Is there a type of super bleach or something I can buy? Does anyone know? Is there a super bleach? Something extra strong. I really need it at this point.
So it's not like... Yeah, is it though even-handed documentary? I mean, I think if you're going to explore a movement like that, you need to look at the good side and the bad side and the in between. I mean, otherwise it is just blatantly a propaganda film.
Exactly.
And
you need to look at absolutely, and I mean that's probably the only reason I might want to. Like, I mean, I'd be dreading to watch it, but I would watch it to, at the very least, be able to say, yes, I can say that, you know, it is propaganda, or no, it's not entirely propaganda.
Propaganda, right? As opposed to the articles you've been reading where you've got all this information from, which you haven't checked or verified or actually looked at the actual movie to see if you've been told the truth. Those articles apparently aren't propaganda, right? Those articles that spread a bias narrative, that lie constantly, that spread misinformation, those articles aren't propaganda. But the movie you haven't seen, yep, totally propaganda, no doubt about it, right? You're a fucking joke. You really are a fucking joke.
Another thing I wanted to point out in relation to the film is I think it's very important. I mean, I was disgusted when I went into the website that talks about the red pill's fundamental, but like the MRA's fundamental beliefs. Like there's actually a website. What we'll do, we're gonna like copy all these links.
We're gonna we'll put them down so that you guys can have a read at our sources, because we don't want to just be like, oh yeah, these bitches just talking shit for like
that's right. Yeah,
long.
Now, see, that's good. That's good. They're going to have sources, right? Because anyone who watches my videos know that I usually have a lot of citations. Not so much this video, because they haven't really given me any arguments to counteract. So, yeah, I don't know. But usually I have a lot of citations. Video 2 in this series, for example, had a lot of citations. So I think it's good that they're going to have citations, because that way I can go and look at those citations. I can see if they're correct or whether it's propaganda and lies and all the other stuff that it, you know, most likely is, going by their level of ignorance. So let's go have a look at these citations and see what they are. Let me guess, We Hunted the Mammoth or something like that. Oh, look at that. 9 days later and no citations. I'm shocked. I am absolutely 100% shocked.
do research this, so we will add the link. But if you look at it, it is basically their beliefs, and a lot of the beliefs are really disgusting, and they do stem from just ideas that that Bunny had just pointed out. The women are more sensitive, and that and that women are, they psychologically manipulate men, and they put them in a position of being mentally subordinated.
My head, I'd be scratching while my thoughts were busy hatching if I only had a brain.
Is that right? Is that what we do? We want weak, controllable women. Really? Have you heard of Karen Straughan? I wish these two were posed, but I know they're not. I know they're actually serious, and they've actually read all the propaganda from the feminists and never actually checked it, and and it's really fucking embarrassing for them, I have to say. That's so funny. Especially considering they think Cassie J was brainwashed into giving up feminism by men's rights activists. Her weak little lady brain just couldn't handle the influence from the MRAs, and she was forced to change her opinion. Now, to me, that sounds misogynistic, because it's saying women are weak and easily influenced by men. Yeah, that's obviously not Cassie J. Anyone who knows her knows that she's the exact opposite of that. And she actually went through hell to get this movie made. If she was weak, the movie wouldn't have been made. That simple. There was too much opposition to it. So yeah, I consider Cassie to be a very, very strong individual. But I wonder how Karen's going to take the news that we want her subjugated and back in the kitchen. I'm not going to tell her.
So that's trying to box us in biologically. It's not. It doesn't branch out of that. Doesn't explain all the societal factors in place for men or women to have to manipulate others. If we're going to talk about manipulation, we might as well talk about Machiavelli. But again,
that's for another podcast.
Again, yes.
Because I know how much you love your Machiavelli.
Yeah. So yeah, actually, I think that there is one source actually. Again, we'll link it up at that. I think, in fact, they don't support or consider homosexual men as real men. So that's a big problem. That's almost very.
That's my favorite word.
Yeah.
Problematic.
Yes.
So once again, there are no sources, no citations. So yeah, who knows what she's talking about? Possibly the pickup artists or something. I don't know. I don't know. But I don't know of any men's rights group who don't consider homosexual men to be proper men. Maybe the pickup artists who aren't MRAs. But who knows? Because there's no citation. So basically we can just dismiss this as bullshit. Well done, girls. Well done. Your intellectual credibility is astounding. It really is. You're a credit to whatever university you're going to.
In a sense, they might not say it, but what they are actually pushing for hypermasculinity.
Exactly.
And someone did suggest that their way of advocating the program is very much like a group think.
Yeah. Exactly. And So there are going to be people who will be like, or like, oh, but this is like, you know, taking away someone's freedom of speech. And it's like, okay, but if it's basically regarded as hate speech propaganda, then isn't it like an ethical thing that we just criticize it and be like, all right, hold on then. You want to put this out there, all right, but then someone can be like, I don't want to show it at my theatre because I don't believe in this film. I mean...
Okay, it's not about a theatre not wanting to show a movie which is misogynistic propaganda. That's not the issue. The issue is lies spread about a movie by people who have not seen it. And I'm not talking about you two, because I believe you're just ignorant and believe the garbage that you've read in your little echo chamber. And trust me, you are fucking living in an echo chamber. But the people who started the petition, who spread the lies, and the people in the media who continue to spread the lies, that's the issue. The fact that they were spreading bullshit. And they forced a cinema, numerous cinemas actually, to not show it. They put public pressure on these cinemas to the point where they backed out because they were fearful of the backlash. This is a mob mentality. You mentioned groupthink before. Well, this is a mob mentality, a feminist mob mentality, where people get into hysterical mobs and in a, how should I put it, a hyper-moralistic panic, demand that these companies bow and do what they want. Let me give you a scenario, girls, and see what you think about this. Imagine the movie wasn't about MRAs. Imagine instead it was about homosexuality and how we should accept homosexuals, right? And for the record, I would agree with that message. I think a person's sexuality is their own business and have nothing against anyone who's gay. But imagine that was the message in the movie, and some moralistic groups who disagreed with that got together and started petitions and protest and put pressure on the cinema to the point where the cinema backed out. Would you hold the same opinion of that situation that you do about the Red Pill movie? Would you just consider it free speech? Would you judge that movie as propaganda, even though you haven't seen it, based on the negative opinions of other people who haven't actually seen it, but are moralistically outraged? Because, girls, you are no different than those anti-gay protesters in this scenario. No fucking different whatsoever. Your opinion is based on ignorance, you are influenced by bigots, and you are morally outraged over something you shouldn't be morally outraged over. And you would know this if you took the time to watch the movie with an open mind, instead of spending an hour and 10 minutes talking absolute fucking shit about it. Once again, this is really fucking embarrassing for you. I hope that you will reconsider your position, that you will watch the movie with an open mind and change your opinion. But I'm not betting on it.
There are places in... there are places where, people have said, no, I'm not going to be showing this film. And, for many reasons. It's not just because, SJW snowflakes like ourselves have gone and be like, no, don't play it, it's offending me. But it's because, these are real things. I'm sorry, but as a woman, just as a female presenting entity, in this world, the chips are already stacked against us as women because we are being victimized on a constantly daily basis. I mean, in Australia itself, one woman a week at least is a victim of domestic violence. And
she couldn't even get that statistic right. She said at least one woman a week is the victim of domestic violence. Yeah, there is more than one woman a week who is the victim of domestic violence. The actual statistic that she's thinking of is one woman dies every 6 days due to domestic violence, which is, you know, a little bit different than one woman just being a victim. I know it's nitpicky, but as I've pointed out hundreds of times in the past, that's only half the information. When someone presents only half the information to create a one-sided bias impression, it's usually extremely dishonest, although I think in this case, once again, it's down to ignorance. The full statistic is one woman dies in Australia every 6 days due to domestic violence, and one man dies every 10 days. We never hear the other part about a man dying every 10 days. And the few times that someone comes out and says it, it's disbelieved. So I'm going to end it there for now. I think there's 15 minutes to go. I'll probably do a part 4 if I can make it to the shops and buy more bleach. Jeez. But I think we've learnt quite a bit so far. We've learnt that we should not judge feminists based on stereotypes of them being all ugly lesbians, which I already knew and would agree with. But at the same time, what we've learnt is that we should judge the entire men's rights movement based on misinformation and lies, without doing any research or watching the things that we're reviewing and talking about, and just make assumptions that we're anti-abortion and anti-gay and we're all white men and you know, all those other bullshit stereotypes which are used in place of actual arguments. So I think this has been a very valuable lesson. I know it's taught me a lot of things. Mainly that we can't work with feminists like this. Now, look, I will say, I hope that they're not beyond redemption. I hope that they might consider additional information and change their opinions. And look, if they want to do a hangout with me sometime, I'd be happy to do that and have a reasonable chat. I know I've been a bit snarky and ponage this video, but they haven't given me any actual arguments to refute with logic. It's just all assumptions and stereotypes and bullshit. So, you know, I'm going to make fun of that. If that's all they bring to the table, then they're going to have to live with that. I'm sorry. But look, I'm hoping that there is at least a small part of them which does care about the truth and is capable of using critical thinking and would be willing to look at additional information and possibly change their opinions. I'm not holding my breath, though.
So you have these different ways that men and women are viewed that can play out as positives or negatives depending on the context, right? So you can't even say there's positive discrimination and negative discrimination, right? What you're doing, what you have to do is you have to say if there is X sexism against women, then there is, by definition, X sexism against men. Like there's an equal amount of sexism against men. There's an equal amount of discrimination, whether it plays out positively or negatively. Look at how we think men are capable and self-sufficient. We think they're so capable and self-sufficient that we can discriminate against them under the law with affirmative action for women, right? Mm-hmm. We assume those assumptions that feminists tell us are privilege, male privilege. We assume that men are so awesome that they aren't going to hurt if they don't get the job. Right? They're not going to suffer if they don't get that job. right? And so it's okay to discriminate against them by law and discriminate in favor of women because, as feminists would describe it, we see women as so incapable, which is negative, except we're willing to give them benefits because we see them that way.
And I'm just playing devil's advocate here because I know you're good at countering. But what I'm gathering is that even if we look at one area that could be discrimination or just a way that our gender is feeling unhappy with their role, or say youth for women, it's like, oh darn, when you're only being looked at for your body, but when it's to your benefit, then you don't complain. So I understand that, but when we look at rights, I mean, there are many countries, not many, but there are some countries that deny girls their ability to get an education.
Most of those countries also have issues with boys getting an education. I actually saw a poster by a feminist that was put up by a feminist group, and it said, X many million children worldwide are denied an education. Half of them are girls. I'm like, yeah, no duh. Okay. Look at Boko Haram. I mean, you must have heard.
Yeah.
I got a worse one when I used to sometimes say, you know, when I was with the blokes, you know, they'd be like, I don't understand why women are so difficult, which I would follow up with, yeah, women are bitches. And they'd be like, yeah, fuck yeah.
Oh my god, the bro code.